Hello and welcome. This is week number 11 of the course Programming Fundamentals. In the theory class, we have covered the theory related with the nested list and tuple used in Python. In this lecture, we will see some examples, programs that will demonstrate the use of nested list and the tuples. Let us start. Program number 1. The first four lines of these programs are actually comments. It shows us information about this program. In the second line, it shows that it is week number 11 and we are studying the topic that is Python nested list. Actually, the line number 4 is a description about the program. What will this program do? Actually, it will create and print the element of a nested list and the type of the element is string. In line number 5, I am creating a list. The name of the list is students. And here the two opening square brackets indicate that it is a nested list. In this nested list, I have three elements. Element number 1 is a sublist. This is element number 2, which again is a sublist. And this is element number 3, which is the final sublist. And in the closing square bracket mean that here the list finished. These sublists are separated with the help of commas, and inside each sublist I have two elements. In the first sublist I have Joachim, in the second sublist I have Sam, Sue, and in the third sublist I have Kelly and Chris. Now line number 6 actually display this nested list. It will display all the sub-elements, all the sublist containing in this two-dimensional list students. In the second print statement, I want to display only the contents of the first sublist. Remember, we start with 0. This index of this sublist is 0. The index of this sublist is 1, while the index of the third sublist is 2. So the second statement will display the second sublist, the first sublist, it will display the second sublist, and it will display the contents of the third sublist. Let us see this program. You see, the first print statement actually display the whole two-dimensional list. The second print statement display only the first sublist, that is Joy and Kim. Here we display only the contents of the second sublist, and finally we display the contents of the third sublist. Let us see our second program for this week. Again, the first four lines are comments. We are also creating a list and then print the elements of the list here. But now the name of the two-dimensional list here is Asia, which contain different countries. It indicates we are dealing with a two-dimensional list. Sorry. Here I have one sublist, this is second sublist, and this is third sublist. Remember, as I told you, you can also write them in a single line like this. Okay. Now print Asia. It will display the whole list. While the print Asia 0, if you provide the index 0, it means only display the contents of the first sublist that has an index of 0. And if you provide two indexes, now this is something interesting and useful about the two-dimensional or nested list. What is going here? We actually want to display a specific element and the index of that element is 0 and 1. If you remember from the theory class, every element has to be represented in a nested list by using two subscript variable or two indexes. The first one is for the row, the second one is for the column. So in this case, go to the first sublist, that is 0, come here, okay, and then sorry, go to the first sublist, which is here 0, and then go to the first element of this sublist. The second element, one represent Japan. This is 0, 1, 2. If you want to access Japan, first you have to provide the index of this sublist, which is 0, and then the index of this individual element, which is 1. If you want to display Korea, then you have to write 2 here. In a similar way, if you want, for example, to display if you want to display the last element of the second sublist, that is Thailand, then here you have to provide the index of the second sublist, which is going to be 1, and then index of the Thailand, which is 0, 1, 2. So you have to write 2 here. Let us see the output of this program. You see, first I display the whole list, which is here. This is the whole list. Then in the second print statement, I display only the first sublist, which is India, Japan, and Korea. India, Japan, and Korea. And then finally, in the last statement, I display a specific element having an index 0, having an index 1, in the specific list having an index 0. This is the list having an index 0, and this is the element having index 1. It will display Japan only. Our third program is how we can actually use loops to assign values to a list. We also talked about this program in the theory week. Let us see the output of this program. The first 4 lines are comments. This is program number 3. It uses loop, the concept of loop, to assign values to the list. So I already have a list. The name of the list is values. It is a 2-dimensional list, and it has 3 rows and 4 columns. Okay. Now I am declaring 2 variables. One represent the number of rows, the second represent the number of columns, and then I have to use nested for loops. Whenever you want to apply loops to a nested list, the recommendation is that you always have to use the nested loops. Okay, the initial value of r will come from, which is coming from this variable rows. The initial value is 0 because the index always starts from 0, and the initial value of this variable c, which comes from column, is always 0, is also 0, and the final value is 4 here. And what's happening here, actually this is important. Go to the list values, go to the row r, and go to the column c. The value of r is 0. The current value of r is 0. The current value of c is 0, which means it will be replaced by 0, 0. Go to the list values. Okay, I come to the list, and then here go to the row number 0. So this is row 0, row 1, row 2. This is column 0, column 1, column 2, and column 3. Go to 0, 0, mean row 0, column 0. So the value here is 0. Assign 10 to this value. This value will be replaced by 10. After that, we have to go back to the inner loop, increment the value of c by 1. Now the new value of c will be 1. That is 0, 1. Go to row number 0 and column number 1 and assign it 10. In the next iteration, the value will be 2. So 10 will be assigned here, and then the value will be 3. 10 will be assigned to this. Once you come back to this inner loop and check the condition, now the condition is false. The value of c is 4, but 4 is not less than 4. The condition is false. So we have to move back to the outer loop. In the outer loop, you have to increment the value of r by 1. The previous value of r was 0. The new value will become 1. And now for this one single value of the outer loop, we have to execute the inner loop again and again. How much time? 4 times. So the initial value of c is going to be 0. Go to column number 1 and go to row number 1 and column number 0. Assign 10 here, then assign 10 here, here, and here. And similar for the other value. So this is how you can use for loop to assign values to a 2-dimensional list, actually nested for loops to assign values. Let us run this program. You see, initially the list was filled with values zeros. And now after execution of this nested for loop, we have assigned 10 to all the locations. Now the list has value 10 everywhere. You can also print these line on the second sublist, this sublist on the second line, and this sublist on the third line. Okay guys, let us move to the next program. And the next program, if you remember from the theory class, is also the same thing, exactly same thing as program number 3. The only difference is that now we are going to import a library, a package which is known as random, and for that I have to use import keyword and then name of the package or library. And here, instead of providing 10, I am using a code, a single line of code, which will, let me explain it. The initial value of this random function is 1, the final value is 0. Hey, assign any random number, it will generate a random number, and that random number will be assigned to the current value of R and C. For example, the value of R is 0, the value of the C is 0, 0, 0. So maybe it will assign something like this, 9, which is a random value between 1 and 100. In the second iteration, the value of C will change. Now the value of R is 0 and the value of C is 1, which means this cell, this location. Assign any random value to this location. For example, the random value generated is 77. And then in the next iteration, it will generate something else, and then it will generate something else, and things like this for the other values as well. So instead of assigning a single value, a constant value to all these locations, you can actually assign different values, randomly generated values to these locations or these elements as well. Okay, let us see the output now. Here is the randomly generated number. You see 100. Okay, one more thing, 1 and 100 is included in the range. So it assigns 100 to the first location, then 32 to the second, then 81 to the third, and then 72 to the fourth. Row 0, column 3. And similar things happen for the next values. Program number 5. First 4 lines as usual, they are comments. Again, we are using for loop. What is the purpose of using for loop here? Is to read the values of the list. What is stored here? You can read them with the help of nested for loops. Variable I will take values from rows, and the value of row is 3. That is the final value. So it will start from 0, then 1, and then 2. Columns, variable J will take value from the variable column. The final value is 4. It will take values like 0, 1, 2, and 3. What's happening here is important to understand. Okay, go to my list. My list is here. It will come here. And then go to the location I and J. The value of I will come from here. The value of J will come from the inner loop. So the initial value here will be 0, 0. Go to my list 0, 0 location. The value there is 1. It will display 1. And then it will stay on the same line because of this parameter that we are passing to this print function. Then it will display 2, 3, and 4. And then it will come to the outer loop. The value of I will be incremented by 1. The new value will be 1. It will move to the second row, and then it will display 5, 6, 7, 8, and after that it will display 9, 10, 11, and 12. So the output of this program is the elements which were in the my list that will be displayed in one line because of this parameter. This was a few programs about the two-dimensional or nested list. In the theory week, we covered 2 topics, nested list and tuple. Now let us see some programs which will demonstrate the concept of Python tuples. This is our first program of tuple and 6th program of the week. In a similar way, you can create a tuple as we saw in case of the list. First, you have to write name of the tuple. So here the name of the tuple is my underscore tuple. Then you have to use the assignment operator and elements or members of this tuple. Remember, in case of list we use square brackets, while in case of tuple we have to use the parenthesis. In this case, my tuple contains 4 elements. Now in a very similar way as you displayed the values the values of a list, you can display the values of a tuple as well. Let us see. Here we want to display the whole tuple. So this statement at line number 6 will display 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now here I want to display a specific element in the tuple. The index is 0. In case of list, the index starts from 0. In case of tuple, the index is also started from 0. It will display this element. The second index will display the second element, and then the third element, and then the fourth element. Let us run this program. You see, first the line number 6 display the whole tuple enclosed in parentheses, and then the individual elements with the help of the indexes. Do you remember the difference between a list, the primary difference between a list and a tuple? That we cannot change the values of a tuple, they are immutable. Program number 7. In this case, the tuple contain all integer type data. That is not the only case. You can also store any type of data inside the tuple, or even a mixture. In this case, this tuple contain a mixture of data: integer, string, float, and boolean. That is also possible. It will allow you to store a different type of data in a single tuple. As you can use loops with the list, you may also use loops to work with the tuple. In this example, we are using loop to display all the elements, all the items of a tuple. For that, I am using a for loop. This is a variable, a loop variable. In is the keyword. This is name of the tuple. The values for this for loop will come from this tuple. So the initial value here will be apple. Once you write print x, it will display apple. The next time condition will be checked. Yes, we still have elements in the list. So the next element is pear, and it will be displayed. Then it will display orange, then plum, and then apple. Duplication is also possible inside the tuple. So it will display apple. After that, once the list completed, control will transfer to the outside of the for loop, and the program will terminate. This is how we can use for loop to display the elements of a tuple. Access and display the element of a tuple. Remember, you cannot apply the append method to the tuple, insert method to the tuple, sort method to the tuple, a remove method to the tuple, reverse method to the tuple, but you can apply the length function to the tuple. Do you remember this length function? It will actually tell you how many elements do we have in the tuple. In this case, we have 5 elements. So the output of this program is 5. Total number of elements that is possible with the help of the length function. And now our next program is about counting, and we also saw an example about the count in the list. If you want to count how many times a specific element item appear in the tuple, you can actually use the count method. And here is the syntax. First, you have to write the name of the tuple. In this case, the name is my underscore tuple. Then dot operator, then count built-in function. And inside the parentheses, you have to provide the item which you want to count, the element that you want to count. In this case, if you see, we have apple appear 2 times in the list. So the output here is 2. Total number of times the element appear. That is case sensitive. If you change the case, the output will be 0. Finally, last program for this week is about slicing. Slice is actually a subset of a tuple, like we have slices in the pizza. Sometimes we want to create new tuples from the existing tuples, and then we want to display a size, a subset of the tuple. For that to work, we need to provide 2 indexes, the start index and the end index for the slice, from where you want to display up to where you want to display, and that must be separated by a colon. Remember, by applying this operation, it doesn't mean that we are actually changing the original tuple, because that is not possible. Okay, so we are not doing anything to the original tuple. We are actually creating a slice of the original from the original tuple actually. So let us see the example. At line number 8, I have a tuple with the name my underscore tuple 1. That is the original tuple, and it has 10 values starting from 10 moving onward towards up to 100. 10 elements. Here what I'm doing, I am creating a new tuple with the name my tuple 2, and I am assigning it a slice of this tuple. Okay, and this is the information of the slice. Remember two things: start index, these are indexes, and final index. It is important to note that the initial value is included in this index, but the final value is not included in this slice. Means in this case, we will display the element at the first location, that is 20, element at the second location, that is 30, element at the third location, that is 40, element at the fourth location, that is 50, but not element at the fifth location. Why? Because the final value is not included in this range. Is it clear? Okay, now in line number 10, in a similar way, I am creating a second slice with the name my tuple 3. I'm assigning it the slice from the same my tuple 1. But here we have a different format. Here the initial value is not mentioned. The initial index is not mentioned. In this case, it will start sorry, not 3. It will start from 0. Okay, if the initial value is not mentioned, then it will start from 0. What if the final value is missing? So that is the case in line number 11. Again, I am creating a slice of the tuple with the name my tuple 4. I am assigning the slice from the original tuple my tuple 1. Now I have mentioned the initial value, that is 1, but not the final value. It means that it will move till end of the list. So the slice will start from 1 and it will move till end, last value of the original tuple. And then in last 3 lines, I am actually displaying the 3 slices which were named tuple 2, tuple 3, and tuple 4. Let us see the output. You see, first slice is from index 1 till 4. There is 20, 30, 40, and 50. 5 is not included in the output. And then the second slice, start value is not mentioned, so automatically it will start from index 0. There is 10, 20, 30, 40, up to 50. Again, 5 is not included. There is the final index, so final index is not there. And lastly, the last slice is here. Start from 1. So at the 1 index location, I have 20. So it will start from 20 and it will move all the way till end. Here, the final index is included because we omit it. So by default, it will include the final index, that is index 9. Okay. So this is how we actually apply the slicing, the subset, or we can display the subset of a tuple with the help of this syntax. This was about week number 11. In week number 11, we studied 2 programs related to 2 topics: nested list and tuple. Thank you so much for watching this video and learning Python with me. If you do not have subscribed to the channel, do subscribe. See you in next video. Till then, goodbye.